In this video, we're going to talk about the new long-range assault rifle meta in Warzone, and it's probably not the guns you're thinking. So please stick around because I don't think you're going to want to miss this. So how do I decide which guns are the meta? I use all the guns myself in the game, I do my own research, my own testing, and then I whittle down the list to include only guns that I think are contenders for the meta. So in this video, we're going to take a look at time to kill, or TTK, which is one of the most important things to look at when you're determining meta guns. Then we're going to look at these guns' movement and other stats. Then we're going to look at their recoil patterns. And last but not least, I'm going to show you their meta builds. I use the guns myself, and I do all my own recoil pattern testing, but I do use the True Game Data website to get the movement stats and TTK information because Tony at True Game Data has done all this hard work already, and he makes this information available for content creators and players. So go check out his website, support him. He's doing great work. So here are the guns that are in the list of contenders for assault rifle meta. We've got down here, we've got the QBZ, the Krig, the Kilo, the FARA, the XM4, the C58, the M4A1, the Grau, and the M13, some old school MW guns. And first up, we're going to look at time to kill, and we're going to use chest shots for this comparison. So going down here, we've got our distance to target, right? So when we're looking at long-range assault rifle, we're looking at the second damage area, and for some of the guns, there's a third, right? For the Kilo, there's a third. But we can see here that the FARA, which is this light green color here, and then the QBZ, which is orange, these two have the fastest times to kill. The FARA has its damage drop off starting at 40 meters. It goes up to here, but then it wins. It beats all the other assault rifles in this group. The QBZ is next, very close, but its damage drop off doesn't start for several more meters, and then it jumps up and it only loses to the FARA. So the QBZ and the FARA, as far as the long range time to kill, look really, really good. So while the QBZ excels in its chest TTK, and obviously the FARA does too, the QBZ doesn't win in all the other damage areas on the body. If we go up here and look at stomach, for example, go back down here and take a look. FARA still wins, but now the Kilo is better and so are several other guns. The QBZ is now up here. It's still better than the Krig, for example, but it does not win or come as close to the FARA in that damage area. Let's go up here and take a look at extremities too. Same thing for extremities. Now at the longer ranges here, even the Krig does beat it in the mid-range, but then once that damage drop-off hits, the QBZ still beats it, and of course beats the Kilo. So it's not great with extremities. Where the QBZ excels, and you're going to see this later, is in its recoil pattern. It's extremely easy to use. The FARA, of course, still wins. It wins in a lot of these damage areas, target areas of the body. So the FARA is an absolutely fantastic gun for time to kill. The difference between the FARA and the QBZ is its ease of handling. The recoil is very different, and you're going to see that later in the video. So QBZ and FARA looking really good for time to kill. Now let's check out the movement and other stats. Up here and click here. Now you can certainly pause if you want to take a look and see what the builds are for each of these guns, but I'm going to show you more about this later in the video. So let's scroll down here to what I really want to show you here on this list. Okay. So all the guns are listed out here, and we've got all their stats like fire rate and ADS and all this stuff. Okay, so what I want to look at here is just a couple of these that are important, I think. For fire rate, the FARA is pretty high up there. It's almost as high as some of the Modern Warfare guns like the M4A1, which is 809 rounds per minute, and then the M13, which is the king here for fire rate, 891 rounds per minute. Okay, the FARA is no slouch though, and where fire rate really can help is basically when you're firing at the enemy and you're putting more rounds down range faster. It's more forgiving, basically. If you happen to miss a couple of rounds, your time to kill doesn't suffer as much as it does if you're using a slower fire rate gun like the C58. Now with the ADS time, the QBZ is king here. I've been talking about this for a while now. The QBZ is kind of a movement king for assault rifles in Warzone. 348 milliseconds for the ADS time. That is the lowest of all these guns. The FARA is the highest at 471. One of the things that you're going to notice with the FARA, there's a little bit of a price to pay for having that really, really good time to kill. It's a bit slower in some areas, and this is one of them. The other one here, where it's a little bit slower, is movement speed. QBZ is king. Okay, one of the other benefits of using the QBZ is just that it allows you to move faster while you're holding it. Okay, so 5 meters per second compared to the FAR is 4.67, and you know, some of the other guns here, like the Krig is higher than the FAR is. The XM4, it is still faster than the Modern Warfare guns, which is good for it, but it's still slower than the other Cold War guns. Now on to ADS movement speed. Basically, this is how fast you can move while you're aiming down sight with the gun. So once again, QBZ is king. Okay, 2.24 meters per second. FAR is at 1.85. All the other Cold War guns are you know, kind of similar to the QBZ, where they're a little faster. The FAR is closer to the Modern Warfare guns. Okay, so just another area where you need to keep that in mind. It's a trade-off for having that really, really awesome time to kill. And down here in reload time, this is the last area where I think the FAR suffers just a bit. It has a little bit slower reload at a little over 3 seconds, where the other ones are just, you know, not quite a full second faster, but they're quite a bit faster. So the FAR doesn't do as well as the others on reload time, but like I said, that's the price you pay for having that awesome time to kill. Alright, so now let's check out some recoil patterns. Okay, so first up is the QBZ. Very easy recoil pattern. Looks like there's a lot of recoil, a lot of bounce. It's just visual though. This is one of the reasons why a lot of people are hesitant to use the QBZ instead of the Krig, because it looks like it's worse than it is. But you can see that's a very straight line, just goes straight up and a little bit to the left at the end. Very, very tight, narrow grouping as it travels upward. It's a very easy gun to control. And this is actually one of the easiest guns in the game to control. Alright, next is the FARA. This is a pretty obviously more challenging recoil pattern. You can see how far up it goes. Straight up off the wall, and right initially it does waver a bit right to left and then back right again. So there are some, it is definitely more difficult of a recoil pattern, but the bullets are in a very, very straight line. There's not a lot of side to side bounce, so it's not as bad as it looks. Next up is the Grau. For a while the Grau was considered one of the easiest guns to use in the game. It does have more recoil than I think a lot of people give it credit for, but after it moves a little bit to the left as it starts its pattern, it does shift to entirely up and to the right. Very easy to control after that, so the Grau is a pretty easy gun to use. Now the M4A1. Alright, so we're going to cross over the Grau recoil pattern just a bit here, but you can see it's actually very similar. It does have a bit more side-to-side horizontal bounce as it fires up, but overall, I don't think the M4 is a whole lot harder to fire than the Grau. So overall, a very good recoil pattern. And now the XM4. Okay, so you can see it's similar in a lot of ways to the M4 and the Grau, but there's a lot more separation between those initial bullets as it starts traveling its way up the wall. It does tighten up quite a bit, and there's not a lot of horizontal bounce, but you did see that it went right off the top of the wall, so there is significantly more vertical recoil overall on this gun than the other ones we just saw. So unfortunately, they got rid of Plunder right before I was trying to make this video, so I had to use a new mode to try to find a spot to test recoil patterns. So we're going to give this a shot and see how it works. I am at the same distance of about 18 meters as I am on that rooftop when I go and Plunder. So let's check out now. We're going to do the M13. So that's the M13, for a long time considered one of the other easiest guns to use in the game. It basically just goes up and to the right. There is a significant amount of horizontal bounce in this gun, at least from what it looks like here, shooting on this metal door. And now for the Kilo. When this was the meta, I used it exclusively for a long time. Had a lot of great games, got a lot of great kills. Very, very easy to use. Still one of the easiest guns to use in the game, hands down. So it just goes up and to the left and then just stays there. Look at how tight that bullet grouping is after the first half of the clip is done. But now for the Krig, it did recently catch a nerf to its damage at range. It has a 3rd damage drop off, but the recoil pattern is just as easy as before, if not easier. So overall, very, very straight lines of bullets as they're firing. There's a little more vertical recoil now than there was before, I think, but overall it's a very easy gun to fire. Not as easy as the Kilo, and I don't think it's easy to fire as the QBZ, but it's still a very easy gun to use. Last but not least, the C58. This thing caught a pretty significant recoil nerf I had to find an entirely different place on the map to test this thing because the vertical recoil is just it goes high, it goes really high. You're going to see that in this recoil pattern test, but I'm still 18 meters away from that wall you can see there, so check out how intense this recoil is. Alright, and that's a full clip, I believe, 55 rounds. There's a lot of space between each round, and it goes all the way up off the wall, off the building, into the sky. The recoil, the vertical recoil on the C58 is pretty intense, but overall it's still manageable if you just figure out how to use it and get used to it. Okay, now I'm going to show you the meta builds for each of these guns. I'm not going to go through each one of them, I'm just going to put them on the screen, so feel free to pause on any one of them that you want to check out and look at further, just to see if that's a build you want to use. But these are the meta builds for each of these guns. If you have a question about any of these builds, please leave a comment and I will address them ASAP. You can always also email me at jrock@jrockgaming.com. Okay, so what I think we've found out here is that the new long-range assault rifle meta in Warzone is the QBZ and the FARA. The QBZ, very, very easy to control, easy recoil pattern, decent TTKs, better than the Krig, better than the Kilo, better than a lot of weapons at longer ranges, okay? The FARA has fantastic TTKs. A little bit harder to control, a little bit harder to use. The recoil is a little more intense, but those TTKs make up for it. If you can use the FARA, if you can figure out the recoil and control that range, it's a very rewarding gun to use. So if you liked the video, please drop a like on it. It really helps the algorithm, helps YouTube push it out to more people. And if you want to get more of this in the future, make sure you're subscribed because I'm going to be putting out a lot more videos like this in the months to come. And also, please leave a comment. I really like hearing your thoughts. Ask any questions you have. I will get to them. I reply to every comment that drops on any of my videos. So please, feel free to leave a comment. I will get to it. Please check out this video on what you need to do to perfect your aim in Warzone.